Ford told the crowd it was his idea.
Let's take Ronald Reagan's words and let's blast it to the American people.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
I want to ask Doug Ford, is Ontario really open for business? Welcome back to the Freedom Pines podcast. I'm your host, Jamie A.B. This is where we debrief and discuss pop culture and politics from an independent perspective. And if that interests you, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and share this with your friends because my name has a hard time getting out there in commie Canada. So let's get into it. As the saying goes, I believe third time's a charm, right? This is my third time recording this because I was definitely a little bit angry in the first two, okay? And there's no telling how angry I'm going to be in the third one, but whatever I come up with this time, it's being uploaded. So let's get into this. So Doug uses a $75 million ad to run in America to convince them, to convince their governors to push back on the Canadian tariffs, okay? This completely backfires. No surprise there. We'll get into that. And essentially now all of our trade talks are completely off and, Trump is super mad at this ad being ran in America. So here we are. Okay, here we are with the fact that Ontarians woke up this morning, found out that our premier, who is completely running our province into the ground, spent $75 million on an ad that's going to lose more jobs than it's going to create. Okay, and then we have to process the fact that this is the same premier who shut down our province that has been responsible for over 120,000 small businesses going under in 2020 alone. But he's super mad at Trump, so okay. And we're also looking at our cupboards, and there's hardly anything in them. Okay, but thank God Doug Ford took out this $75 million ad to run and completely undermine MarkCarney, by the way, because that's exactly what this does. Not even PierrePoilievre would go over there and try to talk to Donald Trump because he wants our country to seem united, okay? He said that on the Elevate podcast, and I completely respect him for it because why is Doug, who endorsed MarkCarney, not trusting MarkCarney enough to actually get a good deal? I just would love to know that. I would love to know why, too. Ontario still has mandates, Doug. Why is it that to work in healthcare in Ontario, you still have to take 2 experiments to be able to do that? Can someone tell me how that's conservative in the slightest? Okay. And you know what? I am no expectation of things being given to me, okay, at all. But if Doug spent that $75 million and put it into food banks, I would have had a lot more respect for him. Okay, but what do you mean you took out $75 million to run this ad to undermine the person that you endorsed into office? What are you thinking? I'm looking at the job loss, okay, on my giant map upstairs. In Ontario alone, I don't even think I have all of it, you guys. I don't even think I have all of it because there's so many places. I'm thinking right now, the restaurant in London that ran for so long. It was like a diner. Anyways, not important. Why didn't Doug complain about all of the tariffs that Justin Trudeau was putting on all of these other goods coming in from other countries that make life more unaffordable for Canadians? Why hasn't he made the taxes that the provinces take a lot less if he, is a conservative and believes in less taxes? Because from what I've studied, when I, want to move to Alberta, Albertans have less taxes on their goods, don't they? On food and home goods and stuff, because your provincial taxes are a lot lower than ours. It's extremely frustrating because if I were the PC Blues today your campaign starts to defeat Doug Ford in the next election. I genuinely do not know, besides the fact that he used maybe some information that he allegedly might have gotten about how well running against Donald Trump works in an election. I don't know. Do you guys think that might have anything to do with why he called an election in January Was it January? I don't even actually remember. Because I think if Doug Ford actually looked at my map over there upstairs and seen how much job loss has happened even before MarkCarney was in, I would say that he is picking and choosing this to get political wins. Because like I said earlier, why would he go and undermine MarkCarney being able to get a good trade deal with the United States by doing something like this? What, don't you think that there's way better things? Oh, maybe he's, spending $500 million on DEI in the schools. Are you kidding me, Doug? Which, by the way, is the reason why we're seeing more and more violence, since everybody says every child matters. Until we actually look and peel back the way that DEI is allowing violence to just happen in our school, just like, it's allowing violence to happen in our society, because instead of actually getting these people the help that they need and giving them consequences for their behavior so they know not to do these things, we just allow them to do it. We call it baseline behavior. I'm not kidding. If your kid comes in kicking and screaming and kicks a girl and, could break her glasses, do anything to harm any other student, that kid, if that kid does that every single day, does not get in trouble for that behavior. Does that sound familiar? Does it sound familiar as to why there are criminals walking around our streets right now? Yeah, because that's what DEI is. And you know what? I just want to mention this, that no gay kid wants an entire month spent on how they're different from everybody else. I know there's a bunch of gay adults that stand there and say, I would have loved this as a kid. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't have loved having an entire month focused on how you're different from everybody else. And then introduce these things and say, this is what the LGBTQ plus community represents. Why would Doug Ford go back to implementing the DEI measures when we specifically had the Million Man March in Ottawa to make sure that wouldn't happen? What? Why? Why is he acting like such a liberal? What is going on here, Doug? I have no idea what you're thinking, but the fact of the matter is that if there's anybody who is actually like Trump, which just makes these decisions on a whim and talks a bunch of crap and makes all these jokes, I'm sorry, who's like Trump? I don't think it's PierrePoilievre. Okay, because even when we look at, where Trump came from, obviously a privileged family, so does Doug. His dad was in the Toronto Council, okay? I would rather have Rob Ford running our province right now. I want Rob Ford to come back, okay? I know he cannot, but my ideal would be that Rob Ford is still alive and runs against his brother and the next provincial. That would be my dream. If Rob Ford was still alive, he got better, and then he ran against his brother. Do they have any other brothers? I don't know. I have no. But between the, oh, and then this is the same person, by the way, who forced us all to get, medication. And that hadn't been tested before, okay, if you know what I mean, to be able to work in a province. And then a few years later, when I'm pretty sure a lot of people's lives were impacted by that, and he says, you need to get off your lazy asses and work, despite also not putting a cap on, he could maybe potentially make the temporary foreign worker program illegal in Ontario, but he doesn't, okay? And he could also put a stop to the amount of people coming into Ontario, but he doesn't, okay? And then lectures us on how we don't have jobs, okay? We just need to get out there. Hello, when students have been telling you, or young adults have been telling you over and over again that they don't get called back, I dare you, Doug, to pretend that you're a young male adult, okay? Put your name into places and see how many callbacks you get as as the premier, but faking it. I would love to see you run that experiment, okay? And before you guys ask, yes, I am the woman that wants to move to Alberta. However, when you owe a bunch of money randomly because the government pulls a bill from the CERB days out of their butts and says you've never paid this back, despite you actually paying it back because they accidentally overpaid you, okay? We paid it back 3 years ago. And then they came back and said, hey, wait a minute, you never paid this back and we're going to charge interest. So that makes it a bit hard when you want to move, when you randomly have been accredited some $22,000 of debt. So anyways, I've watched what an actual conservative premier does for their province. Danielle Smith, Scott Moe, actually trying to make sure that their province is ran, I would say properly, with common sense. Okay? That does not happen in Ontario. Ontario is a mess. We are a mess of a province. If you look on a light map, look at how disconnected Northern Ontario is with Southern Ontario. Northern Ontario should be its own province, in my opinion. In my humble opinion, okay? So, when your slogan is open for business, Doug, I would suggest looking at how many businesses were actually closing in Ontario before this. I bet the 120,000 small businesses that went out during the mandates in 2020 are really questioning right now what your motives are. Okay, because you haven't helped Ontarians be open for business for the last 5 years. In fact, we still have mandates for all of our healthcare workers. Okay, we can't get jobs as Canadians. We've begged you to change it. You're not changing it. And you sit there and you turn around and you call us lazy after forcing us to take something. Okay, and the left, they already hate what you're doing with healthcare. I hate it too, but I know that it's deeper than just Doug Ford on that one. But to introduce more DEI when we quite literally protested against it 2 years ago, just what are you thinking? Why do you think none of this is on you? Why do you guys who seem to be liberals, who have sleepovers with the liberals, seem to think that this is all on Donald Trump? This is on the guy that you endorsed who literally worked for Justin Trudeau for the past 5 years to absolutely annihilate our economy. Economy. Did I say that right? I don't know. And if there's one thing that the left and the right could agree on in Ontario, it's to have protests to have another election. I don't know. Seems to me like Doug Ford should probably just respect MarkCarney like he endorsed him to get into office and let MarkCarney, as the Prime Minister, handle this. Please spend $75 million perhaps at the food banks because Ontarians literally can't afford to eat and you have done nothing about it. There I go again. I'm going to have to get going, guys. But you guys tell me what you think. Do you think Doug is a real conservative? Do you think he should have taken out $75 million to run this ad? Or do you think that this was maybe a stupid decision? Because now we have no trade talks going on with America. Honestly, these two, like Doug Ford and Donald Trump, just need to meet and realize how similar they very much are and get along. I'm just kidding. Doug Ford already went there and he's still pulling this nonsense. Anyways, I gotta go before I'm going to get mad again. I hope you guys have an incredible weekend. And we're going to start doing this at the end of the videos. Ready? We're going to take a deep breath together. 1, 2, 3. Feels good to get that out, doesn't it? Yeah. I hope you guys have an incredible weekend. And I will see you guys in the next one.